Hi, y'all. Hopefully, this week you've already read or in the process of reading about Milan. I apologize, I can never remember how to pronounce this fellow's name. Milan, I can't remember. It's been too many years, it's been over a week. Um, Milan, Milan Systemic Family Therapy. Excuse me, you're also reading about structural family therapy. See, I can say that. And strategic family therapy, I can say that too. I just can't say Milan. Um, so with all the humor aside, I want to address a little bit of this fellow's business, this Milan systemic family therapy, because it's way different than a lot of therapies in some respects. And I want to talk about it not in depth, but just go over it for a few minutes. Um, and again, this is your reading assignment for this week, Milan, structural and strategic. I'll let y'all worry about structural and strategic because those aren't complicated. They're pretty simple. This Milan gets a little weird. Uh, and there's a lot of criticism about it, but it's still, it's used a little bit. So let's talk about it briefly. Let's start with the therapist role. Okay, traditional. Walk into the office. I come to see you as you're my counselor, and think about the natural um, scheme of things. I'm the counselor, and you're not. You're the client, so you're going to look to me as being a an authority. Let's use that word. Excuse me. Milan wants you to be curious and creative. So the Milan model offers a way of observing family patterns and interactions and techniques that make it possible for therapeutic interventions. So what I'm doing is I'm searching for patterns. If I'm using this family therapy model, this Milan business, then I want to look for patterns and interactions. I'm sorry, between the family members, and then I want to facilitate as far as leading family members into change. So I need to assess which members in this family uh, is open and willing, and what are they open and willing to? New ways of viewing the problem. That's very difficult because what happens? They're going to play the blame game, right? A lot of people blame other people for their problem. So, so what we do is we use this. We say curiosity, but that's just the way it comes across. It's your inflection in your voice, your mannerisms, etc. Going to give the impression that you're really super curious. What I'm doing is I'm actually probing you to look for openings. So I'm going to navigate questions. I'm going to help you navigate through the questions. And I'm going to be able, while you're answering these things, to look for openings. Opening for what? Uh, the most motivated family member in terms of wanting to be healed. Uh, I need an inroad, if that makes sense. I need a place uh, to. I need to take up that place to help you see the problems in a new way. Now, we're going to develop interventions based on that. And these interventions are where you begin the healing, beginning the healing with understanding what you're dealing with. So let's break these down real quick. First thing on the agenda, positive connotation. Um, this is something that Milan introduced to therapy himself. It's like this thing called positive reframing, but it's used in a systemic way. So what does that mean? If I reframe a situation, then what I'm going to do is help you establish good and bad as far as the family is concerned. So you need to position yourself to understand this problem in that kind of a sense. What is good and what is bad in this problem? Um, if the textbook uses an example about taking an 8-year-old to a treatment to a child counselor based on his response to the death of his grandfather. Um, there's a lot that goes on with this. And I don't want to get us bogged down in an explanation of what an 8-year-old's thinking when somebody that they love in their family dies. Sometimes there's a lot of anger, sometimes there's fear. There's a lot of things to be considered. So we want to show maybe in that sense that the death is not bad. It's unpleasant, but it's not bad. I hope that makes sense to you. So these examples, as I say, this is an odd way of doing therapy in some cases. So the second thing after what we just talked about is circular questioning. And it's an interviewing method. And what we're trying to do in that method is to have the person describe what's going on through assessments. And then through the questioning, we can come up with interventions. So we use feedback from the client during the questioning, and then from that feedback then we generate new questions, and I think you can see how that becomes interconnected. So the end result of what we are looking for here is a way for the family to see ideas and behaviors in a different context. So we're changing the context. Circular questioning, meaning that one question begets another in the same tone and same vein. So we we ask you rather, and want you to respond to questions that make you see how other people in the family view the situation. That makes sense? I hope it does. That's the second thing on the list. The next is hypothesizing, systemic hypothesizing. It's confirming or disconfirming information, necessary information, that takes into account how the family functions and how the therapist conceptualizes their functioning. What does that mean? Just giving you a context in terms of your family's functioning, uh, and it begins in the very first meeting or contact between the client and the counselor. So by the time this first session ends, we should have exhausted all possible hypotheses about what's wrong in the family, including symptoms and functioning. Sometimes we can do a summary that takes into account everything, and that gives us a basis to work from. Um, really, the end result is what's known in Milan systemic stuff as a neutral hypothesis. That's a way to establish what's important and what is not important within the family. Gives you kind of a basis to understand a little bit better what the problem is. And then finally, neutrality. Uh, when you interview individually, or let's say it this way: you've done your interviews individually. Now people are together, and if there's a discussion among them related to the counselor or the therapist, whatever you want to call them, then most people are going to say during that session, who do you think the therapist, whose side do you think the therapist was on? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say my side. So you have to make sure that you come across as being neutral. You can't get anything done if they think that you're siding against them with another family member. I think that's pretty easy to understand. So neutrality is it has to be established. It's hard to establish without sounding like you don't care. So you have to make sure you choose the right words. This stuff gets a little bit complicated. Um, there's a therapist who said, and this is quoted in your book, by the way, it's impossible to be neutral because everybody has biases, everybody has prejudices. So he likes the word curious as opposed to neutral. I'm not too sure, he being one of the major critics of Milan therapy. So, but, if you can establish this curiosity function, make the family have that view of you rather than aloof, for example, and if you allow the members of the family to all have a voice in what's going on, then that's what the system is all about. Adhering to neutrality, coming across as curious, and you really and truly need to be because you're trying to find out what the problem is, the underlying problems that cause the problem. How's that sound? That's pretty cool. All right, so there's a little bit of Milan, short and sweet. Hope that gives you an idea of what this thing is all about. And if you glance through the phases that were established all the way through termination, then you will have probably a much better understanding of what this is all about. All right, so I'll see you next virtual lecture.